Hey everyone, welcome to my Spellbinder guide video. In today's video, we're going to go over the Arcanist Necromancer combination, which I don't really have a name for build-wise. I call it just like, all of my friends are dead, ... and I have a laser. So this build is utilizing Albrecht's Aether Ray, as you would expect. And it's supported by some skeletons and a bunch of other stuff in the Arcanist and Necromancer trees. So I think this build is going to replace my AAR Sorcerer as my main Albrecht's Aether Ray guy, because running it in the Spellbinder is so much easier. Sort of a problem's happened with the Sorcerer AAR build, in that you can't crowd control things in the expansion content as well, especially at level 100. And the Demolitionist's main way to provide you with some defense is through stuns. And they just don't work as well, at least for me, to control the monsters in the expansion content. In the vanilla content, I think it would work just fine, straight up doing a 1-to-1 upgrade for it. But with my Sorcerer, I've dropped Aether Ray on him. He's now doing, for the time being, Kalidor's Tempest. For Albrecht's Aether Ray, the Spellbinder just works so much better for the Aether Ray. So let's just get into our abilities here. We're going to start with the Arcanist. Obviously, we have Albrecht's Aether Ray at 16 out of 16. We want this as high as possible. I've attached Raise the Dead to it, the devotion ability. This way, our Albrecht's Aether Ray summons up more skeletons. I have 5 points in Disintegration. This will bring us to 12 out of 12 on this. If I had maybe some spare points, I'd overcap this, but that also raises energy regen issues. And the damage to the energy regen issues is not enough for me to justify overcapping it. But running it at 12 out of 12 has been my standard thing now for a long time. And maybe in the future, I'll overcap it if it gets some form of upgrade. But for now, 12 out of 12... just getting those extra 7 points to spread around is pretty handy. So for Iskander's Elemental Exchange, we have it capped. We want this overcapped as well, mostly for that energy regen percentage. No point on Overload anymore, it's kind of pointless. Elemental Balance, we have capped, and we want it overcapped for that crit damage. The various burns, I wouldn't say are pointless, they're just not that helpful. I don't even think we have burns, actually, with this guy. Mirror Varactes and Myvan Sphere are both at 7. They'll be jumped up to 12 out of 12. Mirror Varactes, you can either run it 1-pointer or at its soft cap, really. You could run it in between, but I think generally the two ways you run it are you throw a point on it and you use it as a oh poopy button, or you get it to 12 out of 12 so you can use it as an oh poopy button just more often. If you overcap it, it's pointless. It only adds on more damage reflection. It doesn't add any more cooldown reduction. So just keep it at 12 out of 12 if you want to invest in it. Otherwise, it works as a 1-point wonder. I usually keep Myvan's Sphere at 12 out of 12, so we put 7 points in it. We'll get plus 5 skills on it, and that'll bring us to 20% damage absorption. And of course, Conversion is a great 1-point wonder. I now have Electrous Flash Freeze and Absolute Zero both at 1 point. Before, I would keep this at 12 out of 12, so it basically hit the screen with its AoE. Now, I actually think for this build, it works as a 1-point ability. I'm too used to having it to stop trash mobs from hitting me, so getting rid of it entirely just wasn't working for me, and I just decided, you know what, I'll throw a point on it, and then getting the slow from Absolute Zero is pretty handy as well. Devastation is also a 1-pointer in this build. It might be worth investing, depending on your gear setup. And I'll go over some gear variation going forward, because there is a set that really supports Devastation in the Spellbinder combination. But it works as a 1-pointer as always. We've attached Aether Fire to it, so it just generates more damage as it pummels an area. We are running Star Pact. We are not running Reckless Power. I could make a video just on this topic alone, so I'll only cover this briefly. To me, exclusive skills, their damages now are virtually irrelevant. To me, you need to look at exclusive skills for the non-damage benefits they provide. There are a few exceptions to this, but to me, they're few. So if we were to go over the 4 exclusive skills we have options with in these two classes. Reckless Power, you should look at it as physical damage converted to Aether, the casting speed, and the fire retaliation. Star Pact, you should look at it as the physical converted to cold and the skill cooldown reduction. Harbinger of Souls, you should look at the attack damage converted to health, the physical converted to vitality, and the casting speed. And a Master of Death, this one, the offensive ability and the vitality res, and actually the defensive ability, like that's just fine all around, and then it gives you some all around nice pet bonuses. Obviously we're not far enough in the Necromancer to pick either of those up. And given that casting speed, it's helpful for Albrecht's Aether Ray, but it's not 100% necessary for us. So that leaves Star Pact with its cooldown reduction. The cooldown reduction on this is incredibly powerful and incredibly important. With our plus skills, I believe we have it at like 15. Do we have it 17? I know we have it at least 15. And that'll give us another 2% cooldown reduction. And I'll get to why I want to run cooldown reduction in this build. I mean, it should be obvious as I go over the skills, but to me, in the Arcanist tree, unless you really, really need that casting speed, I think you're almost always going to want Star Pact. Just because Mirror, Electras, Kalidors, if you're using Wrath of Agravax, and if you look at our Necromancer side, Siphon Souls, Raised Skeletons, and Mark of Torment are all cooldown based. And I mean, so is Bone Harvest, and so is Ravenous Earth, and so is Call of the Grave. Everything is cooldown based, at least in the Spellbinder combination, and it's mostly going to be cooldown based in, I think, all of the combinations. I'm sure there's something out there that doesn't need it, but I think for most Arcanist connected builds, Star Pact is probably the way to go between Reckless Power and Star Pact. There are situations where Reckless Power will apply, like maybe the Battle Mage with Krieg set. Maybe Kalidor's Tempest, you'd want to keep at 200% casting speed. Otherwise, I do recommend Star Pact as your first exclusive skill choice between the two. And sometimes even between more than just the two. So Inner Focus is capped out because of the percent offensive ability. 1 point on Arcane Will and Nullification, and 7 on Mental Alacrity. That'll get jumped up to 10. That'll help us shore up that casting speed and reduce the cost of Albrecht's Aether Ray. Quick note, Nullification now has kind of become something to invest in. Getting it to 10 out of 10 not only still provides its nullification effects, but you get to provide it more often, and it's like reduce target's elemental damage for however many seconds. That can totally gib certain boss monsters in this game. So Nullification, I actually think might be worth investing now, and if I had some spare points, I would consider maybe trying to get it to its soft cap. On the Necromancer side, we're running Siphon Souls at 12 out of 12, so we put 7 points in it. I've attached Time Dilation to this. It's actually a fairly reliable Time Dilation ability because it can hit bosses, unlike, say, Electra's Flash Freeze. And when the Time Dilation pops, you essentially get it again. It's also a really great ability. So the way it works is you'll pop it, it'll hit enemies, and then it basically puts like a dot on them, where they'll take the damage over that duration. So as they're taking that damage is basically fed back to you as health, which is why Seer Souls actually works pretty well. This increases the duration, reduces the damage, and reduces the attack damage converted to health, but converts it all to Aether damage, which is our primary damage type. What this will do is it'll have this really long duration on enemies to basically give you a massive amount of health regen. Raised Skeletons is at 13 out of 16, and it will jump up to its soft cap. Undead Legion, 9 out of 12, jumps up to the soft cap, and we threw a single point in Will of the Crypt. We will have 8 skeletons. We summon them 3 at a time. Our skeletons. I'll talk about my skeletons in a moment. Trust me, they actually serve a point here. We want Spectral Binding and Spectral Wrath at cap to be overcapped. This is one of those times where we have an ability that's so awesome as a passive, you want as much as you can get out of it. This gives us flat Aether, percent Aether, health, and offensive ability. We just get health. Tons of health and tons of OA from this one ability. it gets even better, because we have this pseudo-vindictive flame ability, where if enemies hit us, basically every second and a half, we apply a debuff in a radius around the enemy that hit us that reduces the enemy's Aether Res. It's amazing. You'll see skulls over the heads of everything on the battlefield within seconds that you will absolutely shred through. Spectral Wrath is awesome. It also does deal Vitality and Aether damage. So, I mean, they take Vitality and Aether damage when they're weaker to Vitality and Aether damage. What's not to like? Also, reducing attack speed is really handy against, like, crossbow skeletons, to give an example. Just enemies that do weapon attacks, you basically give them. And finally, we have Mark of Torment, quite possibly my favorite Necromancer ability, because it's absolutely ridiculous. So some of you may remember, way back in the day, Myvan's Sphere of Protection was, like, kind of like Mirror of Oryctes. You'd cast Myvan's Sphere, and it would be a long duration, like 50% damage absorption ability. So the way you would work with Myvan's back in the day was you had Mirror as your press it when you're in trouble button, and then you'd have, like, Myvan's Sphere be your sustain ability. Mark of Torment acts almost exactly like that. It'll absorb, I think in my case it's something like 60. It's higher than 50% damage absorption, but that's what you get at 10 out of 10. It'll basically have the damage you take for a longer duration. So this is like, it sounds on paper like it's straight up worse than Mirror of Oryctes, but it isn't. Mark of Torment, it's not as good as Mirror. Like, nothing's as good as Mirror. Mirror's amazing. But Mark of Torment, with enough CDR, you can actually rotate between Mark and Mirror to effectively cut damage down to about 20% of what it normally would be. Because remember, this is also stacking with Myvan's Sphere. It's multiplicative, so it's not like 50 plus 20, but it's still a lot. Like, you just negate so much damage between Mark of Torment and Myvan's Sphere, and on top of it, the Siphon Souls giving you that health back. You can tank pretty hard with this setup. So let's hop on our gear. First, I'm going to point out the two pieces of gear that I think I'm going to swap out in the near future. I just need better drops to happen. We have the Diviner's Raiment and the Diviner's Mantle. Two pieces of the Diviner set. The Diviner set, for those that don't know, I don't have my shared stash here because I'm in Sorrow's Bastion, of course. The Diviner set is a chest, shoulder, offhand, helmet set. And it's made for sort of hybrid builds that play as a Spellbinder. The offhand is really interesting because it has fire converted to cold on devastation. And the set as a whole has a lot of elemental converted to aether lines. I think the chest and helmet both have it. And it additionally makes Reap Spirit borderline spammable because of the cooldown reduction on it. And that's okay. Reap Spirit I don't think is a great ability right now. I think it's sort of like what Devastation was when the Arcanus first came out. And I think Reap Spirit's probably going to get a rework to make it, like, more worth it. But if you're building around the Diviner set, I'd actually recommend building more pet-based and using, like, Devastation, maybe Calidor's in its bomb mode, high CDR. So you're just throwing out spirits like crazy, you're keeping your skeletons up, and you're sort of just one shot, run away with your abilities. But anyways, with this build, I'm using these two pieces of the Diviner's set, mostly because they're holdouts. Like, they're not bad in and of themselves, but I was running the full Diviner set with this skill setup, and I thought it wasn't that great. So I'm sort of in the process of trading these pieces out. I think maybe the Necrolord Shroud, I think it's called, would work as a chest piece here. And I have no idea about the shoulders. I might even, if I can get the Mythic Iskandra's chest piece, because I have the shoulders, I might actually swap those in. Right now, though, +2 to Spectral Binding and +2 to Myvan's Sphere is pretty sweet. I like the +2 to Conversion here as well. And I like that these kind of cover both us and the pets. So we get about 200% Aether out of them, a little more. We get a bunch of health. we get a bunch of Pierce and Bleed and Chaos and Elemental res, and our pets get bonuses too. So it's not like it's a wasted set of armor. It's only 2 pieces, and this character is incredibly versatile in what you can equip. There are only 1 or 2 required pieces of gear, so it's got a lower gear dependency, and that's mostly because of the defenses you set up between Myvan Sphere, Mirror of Herocrates, and Mark of Torment. So this chest piece and the shoulder piece, I think, could be like really anything that helps you. For pants, we have the Mythic Wraithborn leg reps. These are great. Aether damage health, flat defensive ability, percent offensive ability, some nice resistances, and +2 to Albrechts and +3 to Spectral Wrath. Aether Blast Wave is actually pretty funny to proc when you've Siphon Souls and Electra's Flash Freeze, and then you have the Aether Blast Wave proc, and it basically just kills whatever's directly around you. It's pretty nice. I also like that that's a mythic piece that actually kept its proc. Which leads me to our gloves. Normal Aether Reach. These are the Aether Reach we have been running since Aether Reach came out. These Aether Reach gloves, because the mythic versions don't have the proc, they are vastly inferior to the level 75 version. So Aether Reach covers all of our bases. It gives us Aether, energy and energy regen, casting speed, some not bad resistances, and then +2 to Albrecht, +2 to Disintegration, and our amazing Aether Cascade proc. When I've actually equipped all my gear, you'll see the real damage this thing deals, and it's not insignificant. In fact, this proc, I think, solves a lot of the problems with Albrecht's Aether Ray, and I'm going to talk about the problems with Albrecht's Aether Ray. Don't you guys worry. I'm trying to PMA, but sometimes you just got to be critical. So for boots, we have some crafted boots, Impervious Stoneplate Greaves of Tormented Souls. So Impervious is a great prefix for a defensive item. Tormented Souls is a great suffix just for a Necromancer. So these do a lot of things for us. They give us our relevant damages, give us some health, OA, movement speed, some physical resistance, pierce resistance, poison acid res, and stun duration reduction. These are craftable boots. They drop as a yellow blueprint, the Stoneplate Greaves, and I personally like crafting at the Malmoth Resistance headquarters now, just because of the stun reduction and the freeze reduction options. That to me is incredibly powerful and basically beats out any other bonus you could get from the other blacksmiths. So here's the Mythical Necrolord's Gaze as our helmet. It gives us Aether damage, defensive ability, regen, resistances, +2 to Mark of Torment, one of my new favorite abilities, +1 to all skills of Necromancer, essentially +3 to Mark, and oh look at that, it increases the duration of Mark of Torment. With this, we can't really overlap Mark and Mirror, but we can bookend them. It's really powerful, and you guys will see this once we get into the field and I demonstrate the actual build. Mythic Necrolord's Gaze is one of my favorite new helmets for Necromancers. It's really good for casters. It actually works for pet builds too. And I can't stress enough how great I think Mark of Torment is. This actually saves us from having to build cooldown reduction as much. Because if you build, I believe it's 43%. We're not at full yet, but if you gear for 43%, cooldown reduction, you can actually chain Mark of Torment to Mirror of Herocrates easily. I think a 12 out of 12 mirror and then over a capped Mark, you'll actually be able to bookend those without any trickery beyond just having high CDR. Our belt is a Mythic Phantom Thread Girdle. This is a great belt. Relevant damage types, massive amount of offensive ability, some melee avoidance, reduces physique requirements, which isn't that relevant, but if we get some like really heavy pants maybe in the future, that can help us equip those, and it's +1 to all Arcana skills. So let's do our weapon next. It's a Mythic Wrath of the Ascendant. +1 to Spellbreaker. Obviously there's Reckless Power in there, and we have Reckless Power around our gear. I think we have 2 here. 2 here, 1 here. So I mean, you could do Reckless Power and free up a couple points maybe, but Star Pack to me is still more important for that cooldown reduction. This also comes with Ascendant's Wrath, which is the real reason I'm equipping it. -% Aether resistance. This is a stacking percent. This is kind of important for us going forward in how many times we can stack negative Aether resistance on our enemies. We're also using one of the new seals on this, the Seal of Resonance, to basically reduce the crowd control effects against us. Our offhand is the mythical Reaper of the Accursed. So we have Aether damage, elemental to Aether conversion, OA, energy regen, cooldown, +2 to mirror, +2 will crit, +1 to necromancer skills. We gain 10% offensive ability on Mirror of Orestes, which is pretty awesome, actually. The 100 offensive ability on Call of the Grave. Call of the Grave is this ability where we kind of cast it to give our pets a buff. It's not a bad ability, I just don't see the need to focus on it with this character. We also get a Defy Death ability out of this, and Defy Death abilities are great. They basically save your life. So this one isn't as potent as Mark of Divinity, but we don't really need something that crazy given we're basically playing in softcore only. So our jewelry. Our amulet is the mythical Thread of Mortality. I want this mostly for the Thread of Mortality ability. In the future, I might trade this out for something that's more like mythical, what is it, Shard of Agravex? Or something like that. Like, this is mostly for that defensive option, mostly for the sustain. The Thread of Mortality proc is essentially a heal for us. It happens a lot, and it also gives us +2 to Mark of Torment. I think it's a pretty good amulet, actually. Like, having more Aether damage on our amulet would be really nice, but I'm fine with foregoing it for the time being, just so my character can live. Now, if Albrecht changes in the future, maybe gets some weapon damage on it, or some lifesteal from an item, I'll maybe swap this out for something that has some cooldown on it, like Iskandra's amulet. I don't even remember. Maybe mythical Eye of Baranath might be good too. But yeah, for now, Mythic Thread of Mortality is pretty solid. We have a mythical Albrecht's Duality as 1 ring. We aren't doing any chaos damage. I just like the stats this provides. It's an all-around good stat ring. That % chance to have like half of our cooldowns gone is nice too. Just all-around solid stat ring. Our other ring is a Dreadlords of Readiness ring. I want of Readiness on here for the OADA. I think maybe a Galos ring, like a standard impervious of other defensive stat, or of Readiness for a Galos ring is probably best in slot for every character. But I'm fine with running this. We also get more energy regen out of this setup, which is, you know, kind of important. Our mark is a mythical Mark of Anathema. This is an amazing list of statistics. Have fun reading that paragraph. The summary is, though, +2 to Siphon Souls, add some Aether damage and offensive ability reduction to Siphon Souls. I'm not using Calidors, but I like the idea of Calidors potentially petrifying enemies. Otherwise, good stat mix. Slap that in there. There's also not really a mark for this character I can think of. Mark of the Dreadlord? Is it Dreadlord or Dread Knight? I don't remember. This just adds so much stuff to our character. It's just really great. I'm serious when I say I can't think of another mark. I mean, I could craft one maybe that could be good, but I'd have to craft one and it'd have to be amazing, right? So yeah, this will just go in here and just be great for us. And we have an Eternity Relic. Time Loop is amazing. And Time Loop will help us with our defensive abilities and our various cooldown things. So let's pop all of our passives. As you can see, we broke the 3k OA mark. Our defensive ability, honestly, a little low. I think if I were to go for a component change on my rings to the Runebound Topazes, that would fix that. But so long as we don't get one-shotted, we're basically going to be fine. Our DPS for Albrechts is 86k. I think I capped it out, like topped it off at like 135 on my Sorcerer, but that's irrelevant because sheet DPS on Albrechts doesn't mean anything because of the way the ability is set up. And I have some gripes over it. So sheet DPS for Albrechts, it's gonna look really high, but it's actually not that high. Our armor is okay. I think because we have to run normal Aether Reach, our armor on our gloves takes a hit. So it's gonna be pretty obvious if we lose a large chunk of health, which part of us was hit. Oh, and also note, I didn't mention this. I have a second Seal of Resonance. We have both those on. So when we look at our resistances here for the various status effects, they're really high. Like this, especially the freeze and petrify and trap stuff. We want that high. We also have 60% stun res, which is pretty good, especially for a caster. And that's why I'm running 2 of those. I'm not doing a Seal of Blades nonsense thing. Our cast speed's 170, which is fine. Our cooldown reduction's 30, which is fine. Our skill energy cost reduction's 40, which is great. That'll basically let us hold the beam for a really long time, especially when we're hitting enemies or getting hit. I wouldn't mind having my percent Aether up to maybe 2k. That would probably come from like an Aether-based chest piece, Aether-based shoulders, better Aether-based shoulders, and an Aether-based amulet. So yeah, that's a little on the low end in my opinion, but we'll make do. And then we have some various and sundry other stats. Our pet bonuses. I don't care about my pets being alive, so I only care about giving them some damage and offensive ability. Everything else is irrelevant to me. I'm even considering, like, for these, if I were to maybe get, like, Valderan shoulders, it'd be, like, Taskmasters, and that'd be it. Like, I don't really care about gearing heavily towards pets. So before I hop on Devotion, oh, right, and, Physique, 72, that's going to be 75 with my Secret Path points, and then 30 Spirit, 0 Cunning. Given that these are respecable now, that's not just big an issue to pay attention to. So before I hop on Devotion, I want to make a quick note about skeletons in this build. So this build, I consider it a hybrid build. I consider it mostly like a maybe 70-30 split between me and the pets. I mostly want to be dealing the damage, controlling the battlefield, and defending myself. My pets, my skeletons, are not here to tank or be a main source of damage. I have to stress this because I know someone's going to comment on it. My pets in this build are essentially a disposable distraction and a disposable dot. The pets are here to mitigate some damage coming towards me, to distract the enemies and take the hits. They aren't there to completely tank though. We have to have a defense of our own, which is where our Mark of Torment, Mirror of Heraktes, Myvan Sphere combo comes in. We're also dealing the damage ourselves. Damage-wise, the pets, they can deal okay damage, but you have to remember, they're a dot. This is essentially having, like, 8 moving mortar traps. Sometimes they'll be in melee, sometimes in ranged. Sometimes you get those awesome mage ones that have a special ability, but they aren't there as our main source of damage or a main source of tanking. They're there to help us. They're there to give us added damage and distract. They're also there because they are absolutely amazing at delivering arcane bombs. Each skeleton can deliver these bombs. It's awesome. You'll see that little mark the arcane bomb puts on enemies a lot. Because remember, our skeletons are shooting and attacking and casting spells at everything. So you'll see arcane bombs going off just for free. So our pets in this setup have 3 things they do. They deliver those bombs, they distract, they dot. They're recastable fairly quickly. 8.5 seconds is not a long recharge, especially if, say, time dilation procs or time loop procs. We can get a lot of time cut off that recharge. So our skeletons, I don't care whether or not they live. I'm not here to make them live as long as possible and deal as much damage as possible. I'm here to use my skeletons as disposable soldiers, I guess. They're just disposable allies. I don't care if they live. I don't care about maintaining all 8. I mean, I do kind of. I want to maintain as many as possible, but I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh no, I have 5 skeletons. I have to run away now and get my 3 back. No, I'm going to be actively fighting everything and just pretty much also, I refresh them constantly. I almost cast them on cooldown. Even if I already have 8, I will just refresh another 3 just to refresh them. I also don't care about the skeletal type. I mean, I want archers and mages more than the warriors because they'll just maybe survive a little better, maybe deal more damage and just give out more arcane bombs. But yeah, I don't care about the type either. I will constantly be cycling skeletons when we actually get into the field. Now, under devotion. So our devotion layout is mostly about like supporting the theme, I guess, which is Albrecht's Aether Ray with skeletons. So let's start. We have Aether Fire on the Imp, as usual, and we have the Widow with Arcane Bomb, as usual. So getting this one, the order I would go in is point on Crossroads Primordial, pick up the Imp, respec that point, put a point on the Eldritch. I almost said Ascendant. The Eldritch Crossroads. No, you don't need the point there. Never mind. So get the Imp, respec the point on a Primordial, grab the Hawk, grab the Widow. Actually, no. Nix all that. So, put a point on Primordial, grab the Imp, grab the Hawk. Then you can take the Widow because you'll have the 4 points there. Then you respec the point out of Primordial. Then, point on the Chaos Crossroads, pick up the Viper, respec that point, pick up the Vulture, pick up the Revenant. I have Raise the Dead assigned to Albrecht's Aether Ray, which essentially means our Albrecht's Aether Ray is going to deploy more bodies. We will have 6 more skeletons on top of our 8 more permanent skeletons, and these guys, again, they're there to distract, slow, and apply their damage. I don't care if they live. I'm not trying to... I don't even think I can control getting all 6 out. But yeah, these guys are more about just being that added damage. Oh, and of course, I mentioned before, I have Arcane Bomb on my skeletons, and they deploy these bombs pretty consistently. So between the Primordial and Chaos, we will... pick up the Sailor's Guide, pick up the Panther. I believe that's all my Primordial. Yes. That'll let you open up Aeon's Hourglass. Aeon's Hourglass is an all-around great 3rd tier constellation. Time Dilation, attach it to Siphon Souls. Electra's works too, but you can't hit bosses with Electra's Flash Freeze. So yeah, we want that on Siphon Souls. Finally, I have spare points here, obviously, and I kind of have fallen in love with Torgo the Builder. So the armor, the health, the DA, it's a great defensive constellation. If I had another ability that wasn't Electra's Flash Freeze, like maybe Ill Omen, Calidor's with Wrath of Agravex, I'd take this point I have here on the Crossroads, and I would take it back on Shield Wall. Because believe it or not, Shield Wall, you don't need a shield to use it. It works off of just attacking. So you get that armor bonus. I don't care about the shield bonuses, obviously, we're not using a shield. So, yeah, just getting that percent armor could be really, really nice as a defensive option. But obviously, like I mentioned, Electra's Flash Freeze is incredibly less useful now. I mean, there are enemies it doesn't work on even. So just casting it doesn't work to activate devotion abilities. So yeah, maybe with my secret path points, I might tick a point on Ill Omen. And then just, I don't know, use it to activate Shield Wall. I really wish you could launch out of Sorrow's Bastion. So we are gonna... It'd be so awesome to have a Necromancer actually launch out of that place. So we're gonna go and search for Muzalauk so I can establish my Alpha Undead Controller hood. So we're gonna start in Broken Hills and go into the Undercity. Oh, if there's one weakness before I actually like put a cut in here, because we're not gonna immediately find them. I don't want to have you guys watch me fight through a bajillion trash mobs until I find a hero. One weakness of this setup, really slow movement speed. Okay, let's go in here and kick Nomos's ass. So yeah, we Siphon Souls, we have attached our Mark of Torment, Siphon Souls, he's dead. We didn't even have to rotate in on Mirror. Now, as you can see, we can pretty much run through stuff pretty easily with this guy. All we need to do is do like one of these. Walk up, Siphon Souls. Trash mobs can't really hurt us. The only problem now is, like, getting our damage built up more, and I think that's going to happen if they give Albrecht a buff. That's, I think, the main stumbling point of this particular build is Albrecht's Aether Ray being a little on the weak side. Okay, we got a couple heroes here, including Laudos, the jerk. So yeah, again, Mark of Torment. Mirror. Siphon Souls. One here is dead. Laudos, Mark of Torment. Don't care about what he does to me. Dead. Pretty reliable defense we got here. And I think for all Spellbinders, this is the defense to go with. Our skeletons died, but like I said, I don't care about the skeletons. They did their job. They got me arcane bombs. They distracted some of the trash. So they did their job. They did it admirably, and they died. Technically died again, because they're skeletons. Refill the ranks. We have Rowena Kerr here. Boom. Bang. She ran away. No, stay near me. Yeah, so we're doing our standard defense rotation. As you can see, though, we had Mark of Torment back up because of a time dilation proc. Then we just put it right back on her. She's gone. I just had a thought. Like, movement speed. I can't be the only one who feels like all of his characters have slowed down. Yeah, no Muzlok here, though we did get this. Nothing notable. Now we'll just run into Kilrian's room and kill Kilrian. Like I said, establishing alpha undead controller-ness. Hood. Whatever. Now for trash mobs, I've probably included some of it in the video. I almost always Siphon Souls and then Electras. Those two together will weaken / kill / buff us enough that we can take out pretty much everything. So we're gonna Siphon Souls, and we had Mark of Torment on Kilrian. Mark of Torment's been off for a while, so we'll just pop that. Our skeletons will die to him fairly quickly. That just happens with dots on the ground. That's the biggest weakness of the skeleton as a pet, is at least with like not focusing on pets at all, they'll mostly survive fighting. It's when they encounter something like a ground effect, like a poison pool, aether fire, all that stuff. They'll just like just die almost instantly. I don't know if that's the case with full pet builds. I haven't played a full pet build in, I think, since I made, like, there's a video about the Conjurer being the best pet build, and that was the last time I actually played a pet build. Like a true pet build, not a use a normal ability, then just add pets. Alright, the moose did not spawn in Crumbling Watch, which means he's somewhere in these steps. I won't be wanting for B-roll footage. Well, here are a couple heroes. Only problem with Aether Blast Wave is I keep forgetting I have it. So stuff like that will happen. Where we'll just throw enemies around and I totally forget about it. Like with Kalidor's Tempest, it's more like predictable what's gonna happen. Oh, by the way, those little red pops, that's the skeletons you summon in with Raise the Dead. Our raised skeletons happen with like the Aether looking summon. If we do a Raise the Dead on a skeleton, ow. The Raise the Dead skeletons, just to point them out, they're gonna be like these guys. They're basically the naked skeletons. They're gonna be smaller, I think. They don't have any special armor or anything. Just to point it out. Oh man. We got the pig patrol. So I start with Mir here. Kill one off. Put Mark of Torment on the Aether one. Damn, we had to use a potion. So yeah, I think I just got stunned in there. It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyways, that's a horrific thing to fight when you have friends that die easily, right? Also, Corrupted is still the bane of your existence. It was the bane of the sorcerer's existence. It's the bane of this guy's existence. Here he is. It's our boy Moozalauk. Yeah, so Moozalauk, part of the reason I picked him is the last time I fought him with this build, he was laughably easy. So yeah, let's see if we can get another one of these going. Where he can't walk up to me because there's too much stuff in the way. So Moozalauk, of course, he is kind of RNG based. So we're gonna actually put out a portal just in case he happens to Sky Shard us and kill us. But yeah, this is another reason why I like having the skeletons here. They body block for us. This is not the only boss that this can be done against. So this is, when I say Albrecht's Aether Ray needs a buff, this is what I'm talking about. It's not that trash mobs are difficult to deal with. It's not that a lot of bosses are particularly difficult. It's the fact that I have to sit here and channel and deal very little damage to this guy compared to his health bar when I have 3,000 OA. And a fairly relevant amount of Aether damage. Now we do have a lot of frost resistance, so these crystals shouldn't bother us. They will kill the boys though. I mean, compare this to like what, a Cadence character? They'd probably be done by now. With a similar structure to their build, right? Maybe not with skeletons, but they would definitely be able to deal more damage over this period of time. And now we can't shoot through apparently Aether crystals, or the ice crystals. That's obnoxious. Now I just did a mistake in my casting there. In that I actually overlapped my mark in my mirror. I do that occasionally because, you know, panicked mirror Varrock teases is pretty standard. Pretty standard for an Arcanist, right? But he's dead. I also need to farm him, just in case anyone's wondering why I chose him of all of them. He's relatively easy for this character. He's relatively easy to find. We pulled a double legendary, and I need really, really good Moozalauk shoulders. These were not them. They weren't even the right ones. I need Moozalauk shoulders of Fallen Skies. So we got Morgul's Mortality. It's a weird Kabbalist. Or I'd probably say Kabbalist or Reaper Gun. Though you could do a Witch Hunter with it. And then Mythical Boneweave Leggings. Again, Kabbalist, Ritualist, or Conjurer pants for a Vitality build. Probably standard pants for any of those 3 builds. Oh, we got a tonic out of it. Awesome. So, that is about going to cover the Spellbinder, the Arcanist Necromancer build I came up with for Albrecht's Aether Ray with skeletons. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.